Once again, welcome to the Sean Davis Show. This is Sean Davis, your host. Today, the title is The Monster of Owltown. Get this camera adjusted here just a little bit. Sorry about the sound on the podcast. For those listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, the sound was a little jacked up last time. The sound's a little jacked up still on YouTube, too, still. New microphone should be in this week. Try to get that done, get everything set up. Welcome to the show. Over the last week, if you watched us on TikTok and some of the YouTube shorts, and we've been uploading it to the Facebook stories and Instagram stories, but you can't really see just a couple of seconds of it. So if you'll follow us on TikTok, you can see the full shorts, or on YouTube, you can see the full shorts of the areas that we'll be discussing today on the podcast. If you listen to the Hot Elgo Ghost Light episode, you'll you heard about our tale. The people had seen this lantern-like light coming through the woods to them in the middle of the night when they were hunting, and as a kid, I thought it was kind of skeptical. Didn't really believe it, but I know they weren't really. I know the guy that was telling me was honest. He was one of the honest men I ever met in my life. A great guy. I'd trust him with my life. Uh, you know, but I wondered if he wasn't, just telling us a good story to get us spooked or scared. Turns out he was being totally honest and factual, and it was a pretty scary event. And when a buddy of mine from high school and from grade school, a lifelong friend, had heard this, heard that episode and checked it out, he had a similar experience in an area that is about 3 to 5 miles away as the crow flies, maybe 5 or 6 miles as the crow flies, probably about 5 to 7 miles down the road if you travel by highway to this area. And the area was Dry Hollow. If you've seen the TikTok or the Facebook post or the YouTube post, and seen that area I was filming at the spring there. Well, late one night in the 90s, him and another lifelong friend of mine was out riding around, and they stopped at that spring that I showed in the video, and they stopped to get a drink there. And as they stopped there to get a drink late that night, and everybody does this, everybody passes through there, stops and gets a drink. I've done it many times out there working. I'd go get a drink. My dad actually has that farm leased that the spring's on, and I tell you, there's just not much better water anywhere around in Kentucky that you can go get a good, fresh, cold spring drink from. A lot of people stop there and fill up canisters to take home and only drink spring water. I used to. My thing is, if you're just drinking a little bit of it, it's okay. But to consume large amounts of it, there's a lot of sand and stuff like that in the water. So I'd always filter it, and then I'd filter it pretty good. Then I'd boil it, and then and then I would put it through a Brita filter, put it in the refrigerator. For a long time, I was on a really big kick about not eating anything that come out of a store much. I mean, I wanted to eat all natural stuff. Um, you know, you can't really discuss it here on YouTube or any platform, but there's a lot of things in your food that's just not, it's just not good for you. It's not healthy for you. And, even though I work in the food industry, there's just some things you just don't eat, you shouldn't eat. I consume way too much sugar in my coffee still, way too much sugar. Um, Not even technically supposed to have coffee, but I still drink coffee. Maybe a pop every once in a while now. I went for months without no pop, but now every once in a while, if I can't get coffee, I will drink a pop to get the caffeine. But Nevertheless, everybody stops at that spring. I'm chasing rabbits here. Everybody stops at that spring to get a cold drink of water, right? Well, late one night they're there getting a drink of water, and uh, I shot the creek across from it. As when I turned around in the vehicle, I shined on that creek that run opposite of opposite of the spring. The spring actually feeds into that little piece down the road. If you're out there in that area, or you're, you know, come from out of that area. And a lot of people go four wheeler riding in this area, so it's a it's a well known place outside of Wayne County and in Wayne County. But nevertheless, when I shined that spring, and then I turned around and I backed up to the spring and I shined my lights across the road to the creek. Well, they were stopped there in the 90s to get a drink of water, light, and he said it was human size and it was translucent. I mean, they could see through it. So it wasn't somebody, but it was a light, and it's about like a ball of light about the size of a human, and it appeared there and went up the creek. So they definitely seen something that night. He didn't go into any details if it freaked him out or anything else. He just said it was unexplained. And he left it at that. Now both these guys are pretty big guys. They're not afraid of much. So I doubt it shook them up, even as kids, much. Uh, but you know, if you've had an experience like that, reach out to us, tell us about it, share it with us. We'll put it on the podcast. We'll go film that area, whatever, or we'll even get you on the podcast and let you talk to, tell your own story, tell it from your point of view. Uh, we have no objections to doing that whatsoever. We'd love to have some guests on, and you know, I'm not going to give their names out. If they want to comment on this video or whatever, tell their side of the story, or tell it for something I've left out, they're free to do so, and I hope they do so. But I won't share no one's names or anything like that unless they explicitly say, "Hey, this, tell who I am, tell my story." Unless they do that, I won't do it. But anyway, back to the other thing at hand. If you watch the second video I shot this week, you'll see a place called Edwards Mountain. And I didn't go all the way out to Altown in this area because, well, I was in my Rogue, and, it might be all-wheel drive, but there's not a whole lot of ground clearance there. You pretty much need a you know, a truck or SUV or ATV or something like that to go on out in there. You don't want to get out there and get hung up in the middle of the night in the Rogue. But back in the 70s, my dad went out there camping, and he took the Willis Jeep and a buddy, and they went out there and they was camped out, and something happened late that night, and it's kind of unexplained. There's and Dad never would go into a lot of details about it. He just said, "Hey, something showed up. It was screaming at us from the trees, jumping from tree to tree, and we couldn't shoot it. We couldn't do nothing. We didn't know what it was. Couldn't see it good. Just 1 second to be in this tree screaming at us, and the next minute to be over here in this tree screaming at us, and whatever it was shook Dad up quite a bit. But he he really wouldn't talk about it much. Dad's not one to talk about things that's happened to him, and it is what it is. And I don't blame him. But anyway, he was just a kid. He was out there, and he took off. He left. And the most, the best part, the only really detail he gives is the fact that they just left everything. They left the guns. They left the fire going. They left the tent and all their supplies. They jumped in that Willis Jeep and they highballed it to town. And when they got to town, my grandpa asked them where all the stuff was, the guns and the fire and everything else. And I reckon my grandpa was livid. And that is the biggest part of the tale we get is that, oh man, something, happened out there. Not really sure what, but grandpa was livid and made us go back to get the guns, put out the fire, make sure everything is okay. And that they did. But something happened out there, you know. And I've heard tales about my dad from school, and I know what a temper he's got. And he's not one to be timid in any way, of anything or anyone. So whatever it was that was going on there that night was significant. But he's not the only one. And within 10 years, another story comes from there. And I'm not going to tell their names or nothing, but they were, it's good. This guy's like a second father to me. I believe him. I trust everything he says. And, I trust this man with my life. Him and his wife both. His wife is like a second mother to me. But back in the 90s, they would be out there hunting or whatever. And there's an area in out of town on the Gun Pond Cliff called the Gun Pond, of course. Gun Pond Cliff, Gun Pond. And this Gun Pond is full of copperheads. I mean, it is like full of copperheads. And, in order for people to camp out back there and stuff back in the day, you wanted to, if you was back there camping or whatever, you wanted to kill all the snakes around you. You didn't want to get snake bit in the middle of the night or have snakes trying to crawl into your sleeping bag, your tents, and everything else. So a lot of times you'd get out up there and the place would just be swarmed with snakes. I mean, just even as a kid, four-wheeler riding out there, or Jeep riding out there, when you would cross a mud hole, after you would go through it, snakes would just pile back into it, just like that, man. Just they would just jump right back into the water. It was unreal the amount of snakes in this area. I mean, it was just, it looked like an episode of Snake Island around this area. Okay, so they'd be up there, camping or hunting or whatever, and they would get in a mess of copperheads. You know, so what are you going to do? You're going to kill them. And this happened on several occasions. I'm not exactly sure how many times this happened, but it happened. And, you know, whatever this thing was, they was up there shooting some snakes, cleaning them out of an area to camp or whatever. And when the guns fired off, something come to them in the woods, and it always acted the same. It bellowed like a bull, which goes back to my story about hearing something bellow like a bull when I come out of that gate. If you watch the video, I talk about coming out of there of an afternoon and hearing something bellow off in the distance that sounded like a bull bellowing, but there's no bulls nowhere around there. I mean, it's miles. I mean, miles upon miles uh, before you can see a bull or hear a bull. You're up in the woods, so sound doesn't travel as well in the woods as what it does in open ground. But needless to say, there is ridges and mountains that lay all around you that keep you from being able to hear a bull or any kind of cattle making noise. So, whatever was there making that noise had to be on a nearby ridge. And was way closer to me than what any cattle anywhere around would be. Also, it didn't just happen one time. It happened on at least 3 occasions that I heard this. So this brings me back to this story to think that they might be tied in and related. So back in the 80s, they're up there. This thing comes to them, bellowing like a bull, beating its chest like a gorilla. They could hear it actually thumping its chest like a big gorilla. And if you've seen any videos of the aggressiveness of a silverback gorilla, when they feel like their territory is being threatened, and they come out to make a show of force. They run out there and they beat bushes, they shake trees, and they beat their chest, and they growl. And this man told me that is the way this thing acted, but they could not see it, which goes back into what my dad said. They could not see whatever this thing was. It was screaming and running from tree to tree, and they couldn't get a shot, and it was just coming in on them. And they had to either fight or flight, and they could not see what they were fighting, so they got out of there. Now, 16, 17-year-old kids now, mind you, at this time. This guy's a full grown man that this is happening to. Full grown man, and he's got guys with him. So on one occasion, you know, they back off and they get in their vehicles and they leave. Well, he tells some people about it. They don't believe him. So he says, okay, we'll just go up there and see if it happens again. So they go up there, and they shoot a couple times, what have you. And this thing comes back again. Well, this time it's running from tree to tree. And they say this thing is shaking trees anywhere from 8 to 12 inches in diameter and shaking them hard. Now, what the heck can shake a tree hard? Especially a big poplar or whatever, a tree that's, this big around. You're looking at the webcam, what the heck can shake a tree like that? I mean, who knows? It's whatever this thing is, it's phenomenally strong. And it could have been one or more, because he said in 1 second flat, it would be in front of them, beating its chest and shaking a tree and thumping and carrying on, beating trees and thrashing and a beating. And the next second, it would be 50 feet on the other side of them doing the same thing. So it could either have been one or multiple, whatever this thing was. And, so it would surround them. They would shoot at this thing and try to hit it, try to do something. And nothing. They would hit nothing. So they backed off and they left again. Well, he's telling some more people about it. And one guy in particular, he's gone now. He was crazy. This guy was super strong and crazy. He actually grabbed me one time just playing around. He was wrestling with some guys in the cafeteria, and I come in there. Now, mind you, I'm about 120 pounds soaking wet at this time. But this dude grabs me with one arm and flings me across a doggone cafeteria table like I wasn't nothing. And this is how strong this dude was. Now, I was just, 19, 20 years old, just a kid, that had started working at this place. And I just walked into the cafeteria to go to the bathroom at the wrong time because the bathrooms was inside the cafeteria. I walk in there, and these guys are goading him and getting him going, getting him all tore up. And he's grabbing them, and he's wrestling them. He's whooping like 3 or 4 guys. And I just happened to walk in there, and now not fighting like being mean, but he was just playing. They got him going, and he just rolled them all. Just having a big time like men do sometimes. Well, I turn around and I walk right into this mess. Well, that dude just turns around and sees me, and he just grabs me and flings me across like a doggone cafeteria table like I wasn't nothing. Plumb off with one arm, just does me like I ain't nothing. that's the kind of guy this guy is. You get him tore up. I mean, he's ready to go. Just a big stout guy. And he says, "Well, I'll go. I ain't afraid of nothing." I mean, this guy caught his wife and her new man, her boyfriend or whatever, walking down the street one time and pulled over the side of the road, whooped them both. I mean, this kind of guy he is. I mean, he's a guy. But, anyway, he goes up there. He says, "Oh, I ain't afraid of nothing. We'll go find out what this thing is. We'll either whoop it or kill it or whatever." So they take back off him some more, and they all go up there. They take dogs with them this time, and their dogs ain't afraid of nothing. These are hunting dogs, coon hounds. They're used to fighting. That's what they hunt, they fight. They're dogs. They're coon dogs. They're hunting dogs. They're not afraid. They're brave animals. So they go back up there, and this thing comes to them. Same MO, beating its chest, bellowing like a bull, thrashing, smacking trees, shaking trees, beating its chest, shaking the underbrush, just going ballistic on them. Well, they're shooting, boom, 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 trying to kill this thing, trying to hit it, see what the heck this thing is. And the dogs leave them. The dogs won't stay there. The dogs go and get underneath the trucks and uh, howl like something's about to get them. Okay, the dogs just howl like crazy, just like they're scared to death. Uh, I had a similar circumstance. Now I'll get back into this later with something that happened on my dad's farm. But anyway, back to this occasion. Well, they look around for this guy, and this guy that was going to whoop this thing or kill it or whatever, bring it home, and he's in the truck. So whatever this thing was, spooked him. But now that's been 10 years. No, Lord have mercy. That's been 30 years ago. Okay, 30 plus years ago since any of this stuff happened, since any of this stuff took place. So, was there a Bigfoot out there? Was there something out there? Maybe a gorilla, maybe some pot growers trying to run people off. I mean, what do you think this thing was? You know, escaped gorilla from the zoo. Uh, I mean, a real Bigfoot. Who knows? Who knows what this thing was? No one could see it. No one's seen it. They just seen the effects of it and heard it. It shook trees, so it had to be physical. Uh, they shot the woods down around it. Went back the next day looking for blood. Couldn't find no blood that night. Couldn't find no blood the next day. I'm not so sure if they stayed around looking for blood that night. I think they most of the time they just left. They went back the next day looking for blood. No blood was ever seen. Nothing like that. Nothing. Nothing to make you think this was a physical creature other than the fact that they could hear it beating its chest. They could hear it bellowing. They could see it shaking trees, big, huge trees. They could hear it knocking on trees. They could hear it shaking bushes, throwing stuff, just having a, you know, just having a fit. Showing an actual, if you watch the Discovery Channel or any videos of silverback gorillas, it's the aggressive dominance, act of a gorilla. When you're coming to his territory, he's going to make a show of force, a very, very violent uh, show of force. And that's exactly what this story reminds me of a gorilla of some sort. But back to the dogs howling and carrying on. When I was my first ex-wife and we bought a trailer for our first home, and we moved it down on my dad's farm and got it set up. Well, after we'd lived there for some time, uh, we started having some strange circumstances happen at that trailer, and it would keep us up all stinking night. And my dogs could get underneath one side in the summertime. I left it open so air could flow through the underneath. Took a piece of underpinning down. They had dog houses and they had a little building out beside the building, like that we had boxed. It'd been a garage or something, some kind of like a little shed, and in times past for like a tractor or something. And being Dad and I had closed it off to make like a place for calves to come and eat in. Keep the cows out, and we'd go feed, creep feed the baby calves along in this building. Well, years pass by. I get married. I move a trailer in there. I keep my coon hounds in there. I keep this, that, the other in there. And I don't know, but it seems like when this building went away, our problems went away. But late at night, after dark, something would come and beat the walls of that trailer and try to get in. And I had no idea what it was. I'd walk the floor all night long with a Ruger Mini 14 rifle, 223, waiting to shoot this sucker. I'd flip on the back porch light and look out the windows, and whatever this thing was staying hid from me in my sight, where I could not see it. And as big as this thing was, I mean, the walls, the pictures would actually fall off the wall in the trailer. This thing was hitting the outside of it so hard. Uh, and it would growl and carry on and just beat the walls out. Now, mind you, you can hit the log roads at the back of my dad's house and travel all the way to Edwards Mountain and only cross the road, like once or twice. Yeah, it's really close. You have to cross the highway. You'll cross the highway up Pisgah somewhere and come back into Edwards Mountain. But anyway, you can get there very easily from my dad's house, his farm. So, is this a possible same creature traveling a 20, 30-mile radius? I don't know. But anyway, this thing would come there every single night and beat the walls out of the trailer, beat the back side of the trailer, never on the front side, only on the back side where the woods were. You flip on the light and you could not see a thing. Uh, I look out the windows, I could not see nothing. I did not go outside because I had a baby and a wife in there, and there was no way, if the thing come in, it was going to be a fight, but there was no way I was going to go outside, get killed, and let that thing inside the house. My dad lived right down the road on the same farm. I'd call Dad on the phone. I'd say, "Hey, listen to this thing. This thing's beating the walls out of the trailer. Get your spotlight and see if you can see what the heck this thing is." Well, I'd be on the phone with Dad, and Dad'd be shining a spotlight there, and he'd say, "I can't see a thing." I said, "Well, listen to these dogs. Can you hear the dogs?" He'd say, "Yeah, I hear the dogs." I said, "They're up underneath the trailer." I said, "They're screaming like they're dying, like they're scared to death." And this is coonhounds, okay? This is fighting dogs. These are coonhounds, hunting dogs. They're usually not afraid of anything. Whatever the heck this thing was, my dogs was scared and acting just like those dogs were up there on Edwards Mountain. This same story. Uh, they got underneath the vehicle and they squalled like they were dying, like they were just scared to death. That's the same way my hounds acted. They got underneath the trailer and they screamed and cried and carried on just terrified. It, there's no way really to describe it. You just have to be there really to understand how horrific these dogs sounded, which also made the baby cry, which also scared the crap out of my wife, which also put me you know, in a fight or flight mode, a frenzy, um, very stressful situation. You can't see what the heck it is. You can't figure out what the heck it is. You don't know what the heck it is. You're afraid to just shoot somebody through the wall because you're afraid if it's somebody trying to prank you, you're going to kill them. Then you're going to go to prison with a wife and a new baby, you know. So you can't just shoot through the wall and kill somebody, if they're pranking you and they're whoever it is and whatever it is scaring the crap out of the dogs. It's just a very, very stressful situation. And it brings me back to their story up there. It's a very stressful situation where this thing was. It surrounded them. It was beating and thrashing and everything else. Brings me back to the building. Once I tore down that building, uh, this thing went away. And part of me thinks that what had happened was this thing was staying in that building at night. I think it was sleeping there, maybe bedding down or something in that building that was beside the trailer. And when I tore it down, yeah, it left. But when I had it set, when I had my dogs and stuff in there, uh, it had stuff sitting in it. I filled it up with stuff. Yeah, like I invaded its territory or something. I mean, I don't know. But after I tore down that building, whatever that thing was, it stopped. It stopped happening. I don't know if it's coincidence. I don't know if it was, my theory is correct, and maybe it was whatever this thing was staying in there, or maybe it was somebody pranking me, or maybe it was just a coincidence that after I tore down the building, it left. But nevertheless, there is there's something significant to whatever this thing is, or whoever it was. Dogs don't like them. Dogs don't like them, whatever it is, you know. But if you've had a similar experience in Edwards Mountain area or in somewhere else in Wayne County, uh, reach out to us. Let us know. Share your story here on the on YouTube. You can leave your comments there below. Share it with us on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. Watch our shorts on TikTok. You can reach out to us there. Tell your story. Leave your story. Reach out to us on Facebook Messenger. However you want to. If you want to share your story, we will. If you don't, if you just want to share your story with us, want to keep it private, that's fine too. But we enjoy hearing it. And if you have any ideas what this thing might have been, you know, uh, reach out to us and talk to us about it. We'd like to know. I'm not saying it was a Bigfoot. I don't know what the heck this thing was. But whatever it was, it's scary. And he really wasn't afraid of guns. And, you know, you can't hit what you can't see. So whatever this thing was, uh, you know, you just couldn't see it. Same thing with the trailer. I could not see it. Looking through the windows, I could not see this thing. Had no idea what it was, where it was, or anything else. But it was beating the literal crap out of the walls. The whole walls would go boom, boom, boom when this thing would hit them. So wherever this thing was, had some force. Had some force. And, I don't even remember it ever even getting up on the porch, really. But it would beat the back door. And I never heard it come up on the back porch. So if it come up on the back porch, it had to reach and smack the door. Unless that's what broke some of the boards on the porch. Because some of the boards give away on the porch and it kind of done this number. So maybe that's what done it. Maybe it come up on the porch and I didn't realize it. Or maybe it done it while we weren't there or whatever. But anyway, this porch the board started to give and it started doing this. But whatever it was, didn't like us being there and decided to attack. And it was a very, very stressful time. It was. Put stress on our marriage because there she was trying to go to school. I can't remember if she was working at the time or not. She might have been, but I was trying to work, and you can't hardly work and take care of a newborn baby if you can't get no sleep. And neither one of us was getting any sleep because this thing was crazy. But there's another circumstance of uh, something we want to get into in the next podcast. Is a place called Jonesville. Now this lays next to Pulaski County and partially in Wayne County. I'm not sure exactly where it lays at, but had an experience out there with. I thought it was somebody or a bear or something like that, and there was a lady I talked to in a paranormal chat room or whatever that said her dad hunted Bigfoot and it sounded like a Bigfoot. And I'll get into that story later. But she thought what we were experiencing was a Bigfoot in this area. That area is Jonesville, Kentucky, and Brammer Ridge, Lower Turkey Creek area. We'll get into that story next time. I may go out there and film some, show you the area before we discuss it. Also, if you've had any if you see anything weird around Lake Cumberland, I got a couple Lake Cumberland stories to tell you real quick. Possible Bigfoot around Lake Cumberland. Now, I don't know if this is, uh, you know, the guys that told me this, they told it straight and they was pretty shook up. they had we were at one place fishing, and some guys I know from high school. This is back in high school. They left the area where they were camping at and fishing, packed up, and they were coming through, and they stopped in at the other place that we were at. I think we were at Mill Springs fishing, not camping, but we were fishing at Mill Springs, where the mill is, and these guys seen our vehicle sitting there, and they pulled in there, talked to us, and they had been at another place like F&T, I believe is where it was that they were at, and they said that they were down there camping and fishing and had to leave because something started throwing rocks at them from the trees, and you know that's a that's possible Bigfoot, or somebody, pot grower, somebody trying to run you off, or the other. But anyway, they said that it started out just throwing pebbles, and as it increased, it got to where it was throwing like rocks the size of your fist and then rocks the size of your head. So when it started throwing rocks the size of your fist and then rocks the size of your head, they decided it was time to leave. So I don't know if you've ever thrown a lot of rocks, but you have to be pretty big, pretty stout to throw a rock the size of your head. You have to be, you have to be, you know, significantly strong to throw very many rocks very far the size of your fist. They'll throw a lot better than the size of your head, of course. But so there are some things that's happened around Wayne County. It's unexplainable. I don't know what these things were, but it makes life interesting. That's for sure. A whole lot more fun than talking about the stock market. I tell you that. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Our subscribers have been growing some on TikTok and on Facebook and on YouTube and on Spotify and Apple Tunes. Hey, we want to reach out to everybody everywhere in the world. We got listeners in Saudi Arabia, Germany, Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, you Nigeria, and several other African countries. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you for listening. And please like and share and please subscribe and send your stories to us. We'd like to hear them. This stuff is fascinating. There's enough bad news going on in the world for all of us to listen to. We need something fun and lighthearted. Well, that's it for today's show. Uh, we'll go out and we'll shoot some videos here soon, and we'll go out and shoot some videos here soon, and tell you some short stories to lead up to the next one. I think the next one's going to be, we'll discuss the lake monsters. Then we'll discuss you know, the the deal at Jonesville, whatever that thing was. But tell your friends, and if they have any stories they'd like to share with us, please share. Y'all have a great day.